first of all, let me thank you so much for the overwhelming response I had to the post that I had earlier of my mom's sacrificial love to our family and taking care of us little elementary kids when my dad abandoned our family back in the late 1960s. You were very, very kind. And I want to respond. This is not the only time this question came up. A number of people said, what happened with your father? Did he ever show up again? Let me share that story with you. After a bit, my dad married one of his mistresses, and she absolutely hated us kids. That's a whole other story. I'm not going to get into that. But he arranged, after the divorce was final, he arranged for visitation. Once a month, he'd come and pick up the kids, take us. We moved out of the state, so he'd take us back to his place, and he'd lavish all kinds of stuff. He's always wearing new clothes, bought a new car. It's kind of that midlife crisis thing, wearing the jewelry, and things like that. And he would take us to movies, all kinds of, different events and things like that, and lavish, restaurant meals on us, which we figured out years later that was our child support money he was using to kind of, just make it a real incredible weekend to take back and share with Mom. And in our younger years, we would just talk about it. You could tell it hurt her very, very deeply. But there's one thing I noticed through the years. She would not speak horrible of him. She would not speak down about him. He would mock her to us or on the phone in arranging for this, and she would cry and she would, be very, very hurt. But she wouldn't return it in kind. Now, I'm going to fast forward. As we grew older into our middle school years, the visitation became, and we're still very, very poor. And I can remember us living on a very decrepit street, broken down front screen porch and things like that. He's coming, has another new car coming to pick us up. But in this situation, when I was in my middle school years, he had this car, and believe it or not, in the trip down, about 4 hours down to pick us up for visitation, to take us back, the air conditioning broke, and it was one of the hottest days of the summer. So when he got out of the car, new clothes again, but they're soaked. He is soaked. The windows open didn't help. So I come outside with a glass of water for him, big one, kind you used to have back in the 70s, these oversized glasses with ice. And he's taken aback by my kindness. Well, that's really nice. I really need it. And he's downing us. Thank you so much. And I said, no, Dad, that's not from me. Mom gave that to me to give to you. And he was dumbstruck. I mean, I'm sitting there watching his face, and he didn't know what to say. She was looking through that old broken down screen porch, and she saw how he was suffering coming out. And she had gone over and quickly got a cup of cold water, and in those days broke open the ice tray and put it in and said, you need to take this to your father. And I remember from that day, he never spoke down about her again. Now, they didn't reconcile, and he stayed with that mistress, his, my stepfather now, on there. But something changed that day. Through the years, we're getting older. He missed all of our childhood as far as coming down. He would rather be up there and then see us in our sporting events in elementary school, middle school, high school, and things. But through the years, we learned to forgive. Each of us had come to Christ, and so we started witnessing to him. Every one of the siblings, through the years, we got married, and we're still witnessing over the decades, and he didn't know how to respond and would pray deeply for him and such. And finally, one day, I think it was my next youngest brother, Dad had gone over and visited to my younger brother's children. His children had a play at their little Christian school or their church. I can't remember which. And Brian is witnessing to Dad, and Dad, for the first time, stops and goes, I've been thinking about this. And then he didn't say anything. We get a letter within the year, and each of us siblings is married in different parts of the country. We each get this typewritten letter and talks about him. He says, I've come to Jesus Christ, and I haven't been the greatest father, but I want you to know I've given my life over to Jesus Christ. Dad got saved. This is going to be about 30 years ago. At the age of 65, Dad came to Christ. And as he started coming around, you could tell there was a remorse on missing our childhood. And he was trying to come, but he's stumbling about, not knowing what to do. That's okay. It's all right. Okay? But then after a while, we started noticing he's acting kind of quirky here and there and just saying things and repeating, and Alzheimer's set in. Well, it took his brain, it took his memory, and he passed away just a handful of years ago at the age of 93. But I truly believe He was very, very sincere in his faith. He attended church on a regular basis, and we found out in the evening times he was reading his wife, my stepmother. She died of cancer, and so he was by himself, and he would talk to us about his Bible reading and his church attendance in his area and all. And then through the years, as he became more and more decrepit, just falling apart mentally and such, he came down, and then my sister and my brother-in-law took care of him and were watching over him in the area as we all were doing our best to see to him. And then he passed away. But I want to say something. With all of that, none of us carry any bitterness. I want to say that. Jesus Christ has given us just a heart of forgiveness and of reconciliation to him. But I want you to think about something. Dad and Mom are in heaven right now. And through the forgiveness of Christ, I know my mom has completely forgiven him. And I just wonder what it was like when they first encountered each other in heaven. Was there a reconciliation there? That's something that I'm going to see in the time whenever I step into heaven and see my dad and my mom once again. Never know. But I do believe from the day that my mom gave him, just like it says in Matthew chapter 10 and verse 42, giving a cup of water, just a cup of cold water, in the name of Christ, you will not lose your reward. The context there is in helping other people in the ministry, but I think it still holds here. She gave a cup of cold water, and I can recall the day, I do believe, that changed my dad as the first step. My mom, just absolutely amazing. Hey, thank you for listening.